tell you a little bit about what positive psychology is, the framework. We're going to do some exercises. And I'm also going to give you some things because I know what will happen. You go to these events and on the way home or tomorrow or when you're out on a walk, you start to play things over. So there's some things I'm hoping that you're going to actually play over in your mind and actually spend a bit more time on. Then we're going to look at your routine, because routine, as Christy says, routines are and consistency is what makes success. So we're going to look at what is your routine. And then something that you can do for free at the end. So, your brain, look at that statistic, you're 39% more successful if you've got happy emotions and positive emotions. And that is amazing. Can you imagine in your life if you were 39%, if you were 39, like 40% more, it's almost half as much more effective, isn't it? I hope you like the flower. I took that photograph. Isn't that flower lovely? It's a sunflower. No, it's not a sunflower. It's echinacea. Sorry. It's echinacea. At Chatsworth House a couple of years ago. Yes. So your brain is 39% more effective. So what we're going to talk about is how you can get some positive emotions. Now, there's a Dr. Martin Seligman in 2011. He was part of the team that started to split out psychology into positive psychology. So, all the negative stuff I was never attracted to, and it's a little bit like what Cindy was talking about. You were either attracted to people who radiate stuff, or you're attracted to drainers. I was always somebody that was attracted to the people that radiated positive energy, and that's why positive psychology resonated with me. So there's a framework, and this framework is all about how you can be happy and successful. So I'm going to go, it's called PERMA, and I'm going to go, and actually at the end, I'm going to give you a link to a survey that you can do, because there is a team of people, of psychologists, that are collecting data about how well people are around the world. And if you want to research this, there are some they're called blue ocean cities. And these cities are where people live exceptionally well. One's in Japan, there's one in Europe, there's one in the USA. People live really long lives, they've got really low illness rates, and they're looking at what is it about these people. Because as a world, the world's getting faster and faster. I don't know how many people joined Threads this week. Do people join the new app that's like part of Instagram? Another social media app, it's getting faster and faster. So we have to look after ourselves, and it is totally in our control. And part of it is, understanding how your mind works and what you can focus on. So, positive emotions, engagement, relationship, meaning, accomplishment, and health. And I'm going to go through some of these and explain what they mean. So, positive emotions are how you're feeling now. And some people are really good at understanding their emotions. My husband had a heart attack a few years ago, and he learned so much about himself when he went to the they made him go for lessons and talks about his health. And he said to me, I know why when I come home, you just want to talk and talk and talk. He says, that's your way of getting it out. He says, and he knows he just bottles things up and things go round and round and round in his head. And so it's really good, and a good practice if you want to practice your positive emotions is to come up with 3 good things. So at the end of the day, just do a reflection about what are the 3 good things that you did that day. Don't focus on anything that went wrong, and you start your brain, because it starts to make new pathways and starts to look for things. So a little practice that you can do every day, and it's a great one to do with kids. So many families don't get around the table for dinner at night anymore, but if you do, or if you have a chance to get family or your other half together, and you can see what 3 good things happened today, and you get something you can ask the children, rather than what went wrong at school today, what went really well today. So that's a good thing to do about positive emotions. But also kind of think about, if we each have a place where we feel our emotions. When it's really bad, you might get that sick feel in your stomach, mightn't you? And you're like, oh, this is awful. and when you're happy, you might get flutters in your heart. Like you think back to when you were first dating a guy or something, and you get that. So we each have places. So tune into your body. Like, where are you feeling your emotions? Sometimes you can catch yourself looking in the mirror, and you go, "Oh my God, I don't look so good." And is that because what you're seeing is because what's going on inside? So try and tune into yourself. The next one, engagement, is about what gives you energy levels. I recently joined a ladies' choir, and we practice on Mondays at 7 o'clock for 2 hours. Literally, I feel like I've been in there 20 minutes because I am totally engaged. You have to concentrate, you have to focus. It's really, and I enjoy it, and we can make this amazing sound together. But what makes you excited? And so throughout your day, notice what's making you feel good. And the other thing about engagements is listen to what people ask you for advice for. So if people say to you, Brenda and I were talking before, if anybody wants to write a book, by the way, Brenda's your lady. Brenda was saying, people just started asking me everything about books, and she's a book publisher. And you get clues, you might not see it in yourself, but other people might think, you're really good at this. So what do people come and talk to you about? Maybe you're a really good listener, maybe you're good at art. What is it that people come and ask you about? So the printer's gone to sleep. Yeah, so that's one. So, there's some exercises you can do, but I think generally as you're going through your day, just notice, does this give me energy? Or at the end of the day, when you're doing my 3 good things, if you're struggling to find 3 good things, well, maybe that's a clue that whatever you did that day didn't really energize you. Relationships. This is about the relationship with yourself and the relationship you have with others. So thinking about what Cindy said, are you surrounding yourself with the radiators and the positive energy people, or are you surrounding yourself with the drainers and the people that suck you, short of energy? I once, when I was in my 20s, shared a house with somebody who had ME. It was called then the Yuppie's disease, but basically she had no energy and no motivation to do anything in life. And I found that really hard to live with, because if someone's cut their finger or broken their arm, you can physically see. But, sometimes most people have stuff going on in their head that nobody else knows about. But just bear in mind, if you have something in your life, or maybe it's your job. So I had a friend who was, she worked on a children's ward in the Oxford big hospital, and a lot of children who were terminally ill, and she had to have counselling to enable her to function, because she was surrounded by not great happy situations every day. And we can all have not great, happy situations every day, but it's how using the tools, to get through that. So with your relationships, one of the things you can do is do a nightly exercise, and again, you can look at yourself in the mirror, or you can just think back and just be thankful as well for your relationships and the friends you have in your life. Sometimes people have not great relationships, and I have someone I know who doesn't get on with her mother at all. They just don't speak, and something happened years and years ago, and they've never ever got over it, and to the point that they can't speak. Now, you might not have something that extreme, but if you have got someone in that situation in your life, one of the things that to help you is to write them a letter. You don't need to post it, but just write them a letter for forgiveness. Because if you have that going on in your head and in your mind, and it's bothering you, it's also occupying space in your brain that's stopping you from doing other things. So some people might need a specialist coaching to help with them, but just writing a forgiveness letter, forgive the other person, and send them love, and whether you burn it or whatever you do with it. It's a really good exercise to do. Because, if that is bothering you, if you think about this happiness and well-being as a whole framework, that could really be stopping you from being happy, that one thing. And the relationship you have with your parents and your siblings is such an important relationship. So if you think back, if that's happening with you, just think back to see whether there's something that you can do where you take the action. I say to my husband, let's not go get to the end of our days and we have any regrets. And if we have got a relationship issue, and he's got some trickies in his family, is let's do everything that he can, so when he gets to the end of the days, he doesn't have any regret that he didn't try. So I think, so if you've got that as a family issue, then look at that. So the next one is meaning, and I think meaning is a huge one. So meaning is purpose, and both Cindy and Christy talked about purpose. Having meaning in your life and a purpose and something to really, really focus on gives you that, well, it's your dash in between those two dates. And one of the exercises that you can do, and this is actually a good one, and I would recommend you do this at some time. Find some quiet time, either on a walk, and just imagine that you're at your own funeral and you're stood at the back or up high watching whoever's reading your eulogy, what are they saying? What are they saying? And now is the time to do that. So my dad passed away in November last year, and I might have mentioned this before, but he went to the Gambia on holiday, I don't know how many years ago, 20 odd years ago, and when he got outside the 5-star hotel, he realised that the local people had nothing. Dad was a builder, and he started to help people. He sent over his works van, and it became a taxi. He used to buy used car tyres from Germany, and he set up a used car tyre store at the side of the road, and got another family an income that way. Latterly, he used to do rice distributions, so he would collect money and clothes, and then through the Red Cross, he would do rice distribution for the blind and disabled. He didn't start that till he was 60. And he stopped going to the Gambia just before lockdown, and he died when he was 85. So, don't think it's too late to have meaning and purpose in your life. And some people are late starters. I was the HR director for Autoglass, not in beauty, but we had loads of lads and dads working in the business. Most of them left school without any qualifications. They hated school, they just couldn't be bothered. They got to Autoglass and they joined because they liked cars. And they were amazing. They just flew because suddenly they were engaged. They liked cars, they liked windscreens. They're all talking about latest models of this, and because we fitted windscreens in amazing cars, they got to learn about the latest cars coming out. So they were just in the wrong place. So, if you've not found meaning and purpose in your life, maybe you're just in the wrong place. I don't know if you've heard that story where a father gave a really amazing classic car to his daughter, and he said, sell it and see what you can get for it. And she went to her local used car dealer, and he said, I'll give you £75 for that. And then she put it on eBay, and again, it was another low number. It was like £500. And eventually, she took it to a specialist classic car club for the car that it was, and they offered her like £200,000. And he said, I've done that for you because I want you to realise your value is about where you are. If you're not being valued, you're either with the wrong people, the wrong group. So think about that in your life as well. So meaning is not just about having a purpose, it's about being in the right place. And just are you in the right place? So some people decide to move countries, or they move jobs, or they just do different things, or maybe it's as simple as joining a choir. So, so look at your meaning and just have a think about, do you have a purpose? And if you struggle with your purpose, then just look at what do you find, what do people ask you about, what gives you joy. There are some quizzes online about finding your purpose as well. But usually, if you think back as well to what you did as a child, what you like to do on your day off, those things bring you joy, and there's probably some meaning in those things that bring you joy. And it may not be a direct thing, like Cindy was saying. It might not be. But you think, well, why am I liking this? Why does it light me up? And just have a think. So accomplishment. So accomplishment. Again, if you go back to my dad, he was distraught actually in COVID when he couldn't actually travel. But accomplishment is really thinking about, like, at the end of your days, what have you achieved? And you can usually accomplish lots when you're in the zone. You know, you feel really happy, you'll get that 39% extra. So one of the exercises to do is think about where your best self. So when in your past have you been in the zone? And actually maybe just think about that for a moment. Think about, you know, your life so far. What have you been most happiest in? And when you've really been in the zone and you've done really well, it could be a work thing, it could be a family thing, and just think about that for a second. Because that's probably you at your best self. And it's then thinking about what is that best self? What are you doing, and how can you translate that into today and do more of that best self? An accomplishment is also about resilience. So resilience is bounce back. And I don't know if anybody watched Andy Murray yesterday in the tennis. So last night he finished a game, you know, finished the match that he started the day before. And he was doing really well the day before, and last night he lost it. And he's out of, you know, he's not going to win Wimbledon now. And I was really sad to see on the news this morning, it said, you know, Andy Murray doesn't know if he's got the motivation to continue. And that's kind of really sad, isn't it? Because he's lost, and he's probably feeling really bruised at the moment. But, you know, your accomplishment is really about being resilient and bouncing back. Christy talked about consistency, and it's hard to be consistent if you have a setback. But if you think about those footballers that lose matches and they go and play the next week, the tennis players, whoever's going to win, whoever's going to come second at Formula One in the Grand Prix this weekend, they've got to have really good bounce back skills. So if you find that when you get a no or you take a knock, it's hard to come back, then try and kind of work on that. Because, you know, to be successful, having good resilience and being strong and being able to bounce back. You know, the sun shines tomorrow. You know, usually if I find talking to friends and family helps, and being surrounded by those people who cheer you on and will help you that way. And then the last one, health, which I know is really, you know, it's part of why we're all here today, is having your health. So health is one of those things that's once it's gone, it's really hard and makes everything else much harder. So while you have it, really, really look after yourself. My husband, after his heart attack, they discovered he's got a genetic disorder, and he's been in hospital for 2.5 years. I don't know anybody else that's been in hospital that long. He's been in hospital for 2.5 years. I have pulled on all of these positive psychology tools to keep me going, particularly when Dad died. And my mum also has cancer, so I've got quite a lot going on. But, you know, health is so, so important. You know, I know when Steve comes out of hospital, we're not quite sure what that means and how we're going to live. But, you know, and thankfully he's quite happy with a lot of the stuff he's achieved. But your health can go in a heartbeat. You know, he's obviously had these issues for a long time before he was, you know, he was in hospital. But health can be gone tomorrow. You know, if you look at that Windsor accident, that car drove through a wall and, you know, people are seriously injured and people have passed away. You never know what's going to happen. So health is a precious thing we all have. What we put in our bodies is our choice. Yes, you might have some genetic things, but if you look after yourself, you know, that will put you in good stead for the future. Okay, so we're going to do, is that okay so far? Any questions so far? Yeah.
My business mentorship clients more.
You want to help your business mentorship clients more?
Yeah.
And how are you going to do that?
I will make sure I find a lot of time for them.
And how are you going to find more time?
Cutting down on a few things that I do.
And do you know what the few things are that you're going to cut down?
Taking the guys to the pub sometimes.
Okay, so less pub time.
Yes.
Okay. Say I want to do this, but if you need to have those actions, don't you? Anybody else? So anybody that is interested in doing the free survey, one for well-being, there's one for kids actually, there's a kids one, a workplace one, and an individual one. If you go on perma.com, and it asks you lots of questions, and then you get the results of your overall well-being, and then you can take it in the future. But that data is being used, the team are actually in Australia, they're collecting this data worldwide of wellness and how people are feeling. Yeah, so if you go on So that's what the website will look like. There you go. It says for workplaces, for youth. What does it want to say? For kids. So I think if you click on the workplaces and an individual, you'll get that. Good. Any questions before we? Not yet. What I would say as a takeaway is well-being and success and happiness can be learned. My personal belief is that our life is not in a straight line. There are times when it's an absolute horrible time, and there are times when it's a really amazing time, but you can get through it. And there are techniques and tools. And if you're in a not good place at the moment, and you're in one of those times when lots of things are happening, and if I look at me, mum's got cancer, dad's not long passed away, husband's in hospital, and I have 2 Ukrainians at home with lots of stuff going on, so I have lots of every day, there's whatever I happen, they've got, the sirens, I think it went off 11 times yesterday during the day, the air raid siren where they live. So, I could quite easily go, but, life is for living, and, this is part of my dash in between. But you can, you've got the tools now, if you flick back through this, and I would encourage you to do the survey, but even if you don't do the survey, as we've gone through this, think of one of those areas, like which are you good at? You can do this 2 ways. You can think, what am I really good at? And just dial that in even more and be even better at it. So if you're really good at the positive emotions, dial that one in. Or you could look at the part that isn't going so well and think, well, what could I do more? So hopefully you found that helpful, and hopefully you've got some tools now, and that you've got that vision for New Year's Eve and you can go, yes, I've achieved it.